So I was listening to the radio today, and it was on the news, and they were talking about the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility. To be honest, I didn't know what the O stood for, so I had to Google it. But they work with the government and they do modelling. That's the new word. Ever since the pandemic, there's a lot of modelling going on, and they model what the economy is going to be like, and they talk about predictions of GDP, whether it's going to go up or down. And generally speaking, I do turn off at this point because I find it really dry. And when someone had a conversation with me about what the GDP is, I don't think anyone ever has, to be honest. I don't think it exists. You don't go into a party and say, what do you think about the German GDP compared to the British GDP? Because I think you'll find yourself alone. So, in fairness to the OBR said Brexit was twice as bad as a pandemic. So it's like two pandemics almost, because GDP has fallen, or they predict it will fall 4 or 5% over the next 5 years, as opposed to 2% with the pandemic. So it's serious stuff. And as someone who wanted to remain in the EU and felt we shot ourselves in the foot, I was trying to hang on and not fall asleep when they mentioned GDP. And I think a lot of people get bored by GDPs. I mean, why would you? I mean, it's a very difficult concept. It never really affects you, but it affects you. It's that sort of thing. And if you said to someone who voted Leave, well, the GDP's gone down 4 or 5%, they'll probably just turn around and say, yeah, but you know what, you lost. It was a democratic thing, and you lost, which is true. And basically, we got to heal. We got to heal now. We're all healing. We've moved on. We got to heal. So stop fucking talking about GDP. And you know, that's what would happen, even though it's going to affect us and we're going to have shortages and we could stop it, and it would be much better if we're in the EU. We got to heal. So it can't be a festering wound, because we got to heal. So that's the state of play as far as I can see. And getting back to this GDP, it's such a dull, dry subject. You wouldn't talk about it in a party, even if you said climate change. Or, you know, if you said to someone in a party, climate change was the most important subject, arguably, even more so than Brexit, is what is the loss of GDP, you know, as a party game, I don't think many people would play it. I mean, even if they knew what GDP meant, if you're still listening, I think my guess is the OBR will say it's going to lose at least 15% in 10 years' time. So Brexiteers will turn around and just say, well, we always predicted, even though they didn't, but they will say that they predicted that it's a 5 to 10 year plan, and you know, the GDP will improve in 5 or 10 years' time. But now, because of climate change, obviously we have to reconfigure, and by that stage, you know, I'll probably be dead, or you know, it'll be way beyond my time. So I've given up with GDP, and but as I said, climate change, I think 15% OBR will predict loss, but of course it's all going to go wonderfully well in COP26. Cheers.